When it comes to standing out and getting name recognition, one of the biggest mistakes I see with freelancers and small business owners is that they don't share stories about themselves. They don't get personal enough because they're trying to be professional. But what happens when you don't get personal enough is that you fade into the noise and people forget about you. So what should you do instead? Tell stories. Stories are sticky. Stories engage us in ways that data and statistics and generic information just don't. Hi, I'm Danby. I'm a web designer and a global inclusion specialist based in Singapore. When we hear a story, we insert ourselves in it. We put ourselves in the character's shoes. And we do this because we're all a little bit narcissistic and we each tend to think of ourselves as the center of our individual lives. And when we put ourselves in the character's shoes, this helps us understand their feelings better. This means that we get better at seeing the person who's telling the story as a whole, real person. And this can sound silly, and you might be thinking, yeah, of course, every person is a whole, real person. But that's actually not how most of us treat each other until we have formed some sort of a personal connection. And when you tell stories, your audience, your listeners, your viewers, your readers get to understand you better and they form a personal connection with you. And that connection is what makes you memorable. When I talk to my clients about telling stories about themselves, some of the most common responses I get are, well, I feel really uncomfortable about talking about myself. And I hate this idea because it feels like self-promotion and that always feels icky. And I'm worried about what other people are going to think when they see me talking about myself all the freaking time. So if you are thinking any of these things, please know that it's all normal. And that's why I want to talk to you about the brand story. Your brand story is all about a turning point in your life that explains why you help the people you help. It focuses on your audience and not on you or your accomplishments or your expertise. It makes you unforgettable. This is the story that your clients are going to repeat back to you when you ask them what made them want to work with you. Your brand story has 5 parts: the struggle, the new direction, the turning point, the realization, and the connection. I'm going to use the brand story that I currently have on my About page as an example to explain each of these parts. And you might already know this, but my clients are online coaches, and they are the audience that I had in mind when I wrote this story. Part 1 is the struggle. The struggle provides background information about what was going on in your life and what wasn't working so well that eventually led to the turning point. So in my example, when I was 20 years old, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome and prediabetes. I had never had regular periods, but at this point I had gone for over a year without getting my period, and that's why I went to see the doctor. My doctors were not super helpful. They told me that I had to lose a ton of weight really quickly or risk getting cervical cancer. And I wasn't more than 2-3 kilograms heavier than I am now. They also gave me medication that really damaged my digestive system, and they kept me on the oral contraceptive pill. Things were not going really well. Part 2 is the new direction. This is something new that you started doing in the process of working through your struggle. In my example, I got tired of going to doctor's appointments and decided to figure it out on my own. And this is when I discovered the world of whole foods and biohacking. I started following experts like Dave Asprey and Tim Ferriss. I kind of started studying how different lifestyle choices affected my insulin resistance. Part 3 is the turning point. But just because I call it the turning point doesn't mean it has to be this big, dramatic moment in your life. It just has to be a specific event. Something specific that you could go into a lot of detail about if you were asked to. In my example, I discovered health coaches. I found that there were health coaches who specialized in women's hormone health, and I worked with health coaches to improve my insulin resistance and get my period back without the pill. Part 4 is the realization, and this is where you describe something that you became aware of or something that you came to understand more clearly as a result of the turning point. And in my example, I realized that when it comes to diseases or conditions that affect women, there's still so much that we just don't know. Most medical research focuses on white men. And most doctors aren't equipped with what the latest research does show. And thankfully, there are health coaches who are qualified and who fill this gap. And instead of relying on drugs that have major side effects, they're empowering women to heal themselves and to restore their health naturally through lifestyle changes. Part 5 is the connection. This is where you explain to your audience why the story you've been telling them so far matters to them. This is where you make it super clear why in your business you choose to work with them. In my example, I worked with health coaches and they changed my life quite literally. So I wanted to connect them with more people so that they could change even more lives. And health coaches also provided this gateway into the broader coaching world for me, because after I experienced just how much I could change by working with someone with this deep expertise in their field, I started seeking out coaches who could help me grow in other parts of my life as well. I wanted to become a better business owner, a better writer, and a better leader, and I found coaches to help me with all of these areas. Coaches have this power to help people break out of their status quo and experience just life-changing growth. And my work is all about connecting these coaches with their people so that more people all around the world can experience that kind of growth. So that is the brand story. The 5 parts are the struggle, the new direction, the turning point, the realization, and the connection. I want to challenge you to write the first draft of your brand story and share it here in the comments. I'll give you feedback so that you can start using your brand story in your marketing and stand out from the crowd. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll talk to you soon.